I think it's something that you have to really want, right? If you don't want it bad enough, then it's just not going to happen, right? You're not going to do what you have to do, and you're not going to sacrifice the things that you have to sacrifice in order to make it happen.
Welcome to the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast. Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, this is Augustino. The great thing about having guests come on the show is that we get to learn strategies from the journeys and traps and different things that they went through to eventually find the freedom and success they're enjoying today. But specifically, one of the things that we're always looking for is the strategies to create that generational wealth through real estate. Well, today's guest, he's done just that. Because he wanted to be involved with his family and wanted to be involved with his family's lives, he went to work studying the successes and failures of others. Once he was ready, he was able to quit his job as a BMW tech to pursue real estate investing. After buying his first home, to doing some flips and eventually deciding to pursue apartments. So he started with a 32-unit deal, but he didn't stop there. Now, as a full-time multifamily investor and syndicator, he's partnered in over 2,000 units as a GP and an LP. He is the host of the Commit to Wealth podcast that focuses on creating generational wealth through real estate. With all that, I'd like to welcome my good friend, Juan Vargas, to the show. Hey, Juan, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, man, that's an awesome introduction, man. That's like probably one of the best I've ever had, man. I'll tell you that. So thank you very much for Agostino. It's a pleasure to be on your show. And I'm excited. I really am. So let's make this happen, man.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. But before we go on, if you like what Juan has to say, you can reach him via his website at thejuanvargas.com. If you like our content, please don't forget to leave a comment and rate the show. And finally, if you text the word freedom to 202-410-4202, you can receive our free ebook, The Bulletproof Guide to Finding a Broker. Okay, Juan, go ahead and tell listeners about how you got your start.
Sure. Yeah, man. Thank you. So I got my start so really I was working W-2 job, right? And I was at BMW on the technician side, just working on cars, man, like you said. And so, during that the process, during those years, I did realize that it was long hours that I was working, and I wanted to make a change, and part of that change was to create passive income. And so, I just did a simple research in how can I create passive income, and real estate was one of those things that just kept popping up. And I told myself, you know what, I need to get into real estate, create some passive income, and hopefully one day I'm able to leave my job, right? And so the other thing about that was that my dad was already in real estate. He already had some rental houses, except he did things a little bit differently than the way I was planning on doing it. He did a lot of things himself. Right. So he was the guy that bought the house, the guy that rehabbed the house, the guy that leased the unit, those type of things. And he only had a handful. Right. But what I found about him was that he did a lot of things himself. So it was a lot of time that he used there. Nonetheless, I went ahead and proceeded with single family investing. And so specifically in rentals. Right. So I had a couple rental houses, and, things were going well. My plan was to have about 60, 70 houses, when it's all said and done, right? That was my big plans and my big goals. But there was one little problem there, and that was it was going to take a long time to get to that point, right? And so I started realizing that. But my big aha moment came whenever one of my tenants left, right? So it was the end of his term. He ended up leaving. And he was a great tenant, but he ended up leaving because he had to, restation somewhere else. He was in the military. And then, I found myself being the one that had to pay for the mortgage, for the utilities, for the expenses. And so whatever cash flow that I had set aside that had made, it was pretty much gone. It was back into this other bucket to pay for these expenses. Right. And so I thought to myself, man, why does everybody always say that, single family investing in rentals are awesome, which they are. But if you're doing it at a big scale, right? Because if you're doing it at a small scale, not only are you more at risk, and it's going to take more of your time, but the other thing was that my big aha moment that I was saying earlier was, I had a resident, I had a tenant in my property, and he was gone, and now it went from 100% occupied to 0% occupied, right? And so that was the big kicker there. I thought to myself, hey man, if I have an apartment community that's just 10 units, and, one tenant leaves, I'm still 90% occupied, right? Assuming that you're 100% occupied before, I'm still 90% occupied. And I'm still able to pay for my mortgage without having to come out of my pocket and expenses and those type of things, right? And then if you increase the size, then it just gets that much easier. So I was like, man, they just makes too much sense for me to get into apartments. And that's exactly what I set my eyes and my goals out to do was to buy apartments. And so, yeah, that's how I got my start in apartments.
Well, it's interesting you said that, though. The bigger the deal gets, it gets a little bit easier, right? And it's 100% true. It's for many people out there, the bigger the deal is, the easier it is to manage, the more cash flow there is to keep it running. There, you can afford to have property management on site to address the concerns of the residents that are living there. I mean, it just works out better. I think the hardest part, though, is making that leap from single family to maybe it's a duplex or even a 10plex. But how did you do that then? So you realized it, right? And you knew that you had to get out of doing the single family thing for that reason. The guy leaves and next thing you know, you're at 100% empty, right? Now you're paying all those bills. How did you come up with the plan to get from that single family to a bigger deal? Like, how did you do it? Did you partner up with somebody? Did you get a business plan? Did you get a mentor? Like, how'd you do it?
Yeah, that's another interesting story in itself, and first of all, it's mental, right? And I always, tell, younger guys or even guys that are just new to the business, right? That want to get started. First of all, you have to have the right mentality, right? It's hard for us, as a society, you're used to, doing the normal things, which is, getting a job, and then saving up and then, buying a house, and the house, could be maybe $100,000-$200,000. And even that, it's a big decision, right? But going from $100,000 to $200,000 to going from that number to like $1 million or more, that's a big shift in your mind, right? And so I think that one of the most important things is having the right mindset to be able to get to that point, right? Once you're able to have that mindset, so to speak, that's a strong-willed, that it's going to be some risk involved, then the next step is to make sure that you have the proper education, right? And so that was, some of the things that I did was, there's a lot of sites out there that are helpful. One of those is, Bigger Pockets. That's how I was able to learn a lot of what I learned, to get my education started, right? So Bigger Pockets is a good one. And then there's a lot of books out there. I read on a bunch of books on the multifamily side, a couple of those being Multifamily Millions and Emerging Real Estate Markets by David Lindow. Right. And so those were some solid books that I picked up and I read them from cover to cover, and I was able to help, educate myself on the multifamily side of things. And so, once I had enough, education, in addition to that was some podcasts and just networking, right? Networking with the guys that are already in the business. I think that's one of the most important things that you can do, just seeing somebody that's a real live person that's doing what you want to do. And it helps to shift that mindset even more, and to know that, hey, this is possible, man. This guy that I just shook his hands with, he is doing this. And so, yes, some guys are really, really bright, but at the end of the day, it doesn't take a genius to do this, right? It's not rocket science, And so it's just more that will, that determination, that motivation, and that mindset. Like I said, once you get all that together, then it's time for that action. And so that was, what I did. I was like, okay, I have enough information here. If I keep trying to educate myself, then it's just going to become analysis paralysis. And I don't know if your audience has heard that term, but it's like you keep trying to educate yourself to try to know as much as you can, but you're not really making any moves, or you're not really taking any action, and you're still kind of stuck, so you could go on, 2 or 3 or 5 years and you still haven't done anything. And so that's called analysis paralysis. They'll get into that. Just educate yourself enough, and then, take a step forward. Right. And so, that I was like, okay, that's enough. Let me take action. And so, I started doing some direct mail, and, sure enough, I was able to have some owners call me back, and, they called me back and, told me that they were interested in selling, and, that's how we took it from there. So, So yeah, all that to say that yes, it's possible to go from single family to multifamily, but you just got to have the right mindset to get to that point.
Yeah, I think the biggest part though is what you said. I mean, aside from reading the books, there's the action taking of getting out there, networking with people, presenting yourself like you're a pro, like you know what you're talking about. That's probably where those books come in, and listening to podcasts, of course, is another big part of it. And developing that mental muscle, right? That to really know what you're saying when it comes to this business. Because if you go and talk to an experienced person and you sound like super, super newbie, it's going to be very difficult for them to see you any other way, right? So really knowing your stuff is going to be absolutely key.
That's super important. That's like you couldn't have said that any better. It's super, super important to know that. And now we're not asking anybody to be a pro, right? We're just, if you're going to be talking to somebody in the multifamily space or whatever space you're in, I mean, it can be, regarding pizza, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, right.
It doesn't matter what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Educate yourself enough. So there's some terms that are in the single family space that you don't use in the commercial real estate space, like ARV. That's one thing that I've seen a lot of guys use, like, oh, the ARV value. It's like, ARV stands for after repair value, right? So we don't use that in the commercial real estate space, right?
Right.
We use stabilized value, right? And that's, you have a going in, cap rate, and then you're stabilized property, and then you can even sell the property later on, but that's your reversion cap rate. There's a lot of little terms that you have to know. And that's the same thing, like even when you're approaching sellers or brokers, like for example, this seller that called me back, and, we entertained, the opportunity to buy the property. During that process, they wouldn't have taken me seriously. We wouldn't have gone further if I didn't educate myself on the terminology, because they would have been like, okay, this guy's wasting my time. Like, how is he going to buy a $1 million property if he can't, if he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? So they would have just shut the door right there, and then they would have moved on. So, it's very important that you educate yourself as much as possible, because it opens up other opportunities and deeper conversations.
Absolutely. So some of your first deals then, when you did find that experienced person, then how did you present yourself with them? Like, what exactly did you say to get them at least interested in what you might be able to do for them?
So if we're talking about the same, 32 unit that I acquired. The very first property was a 32 unit.
Yeah.
And it was a mom and pop, they had it since like day one. They were ready for retirement. And so, I think it's very important that we build rapport, right? It's just like anything else. Like, there's a lot of single family guys out there that are listening. It's the same thing with you guys. I mean, you guys have to build rapport with the sellers, right? In order to get the deal in the contract, and whatever your end goal is with the property, you can move forward with that. But you have to build rapport so that like that they can sell it to you. Otherwise, they'll sell it to Agostino or to myself, right? And so I think that's very important, and that's one of the things that you have to do: build rapport. Go to dinner, those type of things, and that's what we did, right? I simply just we talked shop for a little bit. I invited them to dinner. I didn't try to force anything. I took my wife alongside with me, and so my wife and the I guess one of the owners, the wife, so it was a husband and wife. The wife, got along well with my wife. I got along well with the husband. There's a lot of similarities there. And then, we just, kind of took it from there. And so they wanted to give us the opportunity. They saw a younger couple that's, getting into the business. They're trying to exit the business. They wanted to give us an opportunity. And we took it and we ran with it, right? So I think there's a lot of little things that people, just overlook. It's not just about the numbers, it's about the relationship, and even from there, we've been in touch, since then. So I think it's a lot of little things that you got to, keep in mind. Once you're going through something like this, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the mindset then. So back in the day when you were a BMW mechanic and you wanted to escape the rat race, you wanted to get out of it, you wanted to be home with your family, but this 40-hour job, probably more than 40 hours, I would imagine, is keeping you from living with your family, to be with them as often and as frequently as you want. What sort of mindset did you have to acquire to get to that space? And what sort of things did you do? I mean, and I'll give you the example. Like for me, when I was first starting in this thing, I had no idea that syndication was even a thing. I had no idea I thought banks owned everything. I had no idea, right?
Yeah,
I wasn't focused on it. I was focused on doing single family, just like you were, right? I was doing that. It took some education, and once I understood that, it was very easy. But then I had to really expand my mind, and that took a series of, in some cases, years to figure that out. But now that I understand the mindset game and personal development, that changed the whole dynamic. So what were some of the tools that you use? Like, how did you figure that out? Or was it someone else that helped you, or did you just have to like stumble along on your own to try to figure it out?
I think it's something that you have to really want, right? If you don't want it bad enough, then it's just not going to happen, right? You're not going to do what you have to do, and you're not going to sacrifice the things that you have to sacrifice in order to make it happen, right? And so for me, I wanted it bad enough. I enjoyed what I did, right? I mean, I think it was fun. Worked on some fast cars. Did a lot of great things with those cars, and I made some good friends. But at the same time, I looked into the future, and I try to envision myself. How am I going to look? 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 40 years from now, right? What am I going to be doing? Am I still going to be doing this, or what is it? And if it's not this, then what else is there that I can do, right? And so those are kind of things that I was envisioning, and I envisioned myself like in the worst case situation, in the worst case scenario, like I'm still here, haven't made any progress. I'm stressed out, I'm worn down, those type of things. And those are the type of things that really trigger you to want to make a change, right? So once I had that mindset, I decided to, okay, I'm not, I'm going to keep educating myself. I'm going to keep, pushing that mindset, feeding that hunger. And part of that is sacrificing, time with your buddies, right? You're younger. You want to, still go out and have those, type of, moments and type of nights, just hanging out, having a good time. But you have to put that to the side. You can have that later on, and you can still have that now, but just every now and then, right? You can't then make that a priority. And so it was tough, right? Because a lot of my friends that I consider good friends, they continue to do those type of things. And you, like for myself, I didn't do those type of things. So any money that I was making, it was going straight to savings, right? Saving most of it, using some of it for your everyday bills. But that was another shift that I had to make, and we were already doing that, but I wanted to increase that level, right? So it was like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice even more here. So you sacrifice financially, you sacrifice socially, all those things. So like even during your lunch breaks, what was I doing? I was reading. Like I would literally go to like my car, because I shifted from going to lunch with my buddies all the time, having a good time every single time, to going to my car and reading. Like I literally did that, right? And so I was like in my car in the middle of the summer, car running, AC on, but I wanted to like just focus on myself and the books, and I learned so much, right? So then I would get home. It was long hours, and then have 3 boys, so I would spend time with the family, with my wife, and then there's very little time for yourself to read and to catch up. So I did that, during my lunch break, right? And also I would make phone calls, just a bunch of those type of things, right? But I guess what I'm trying to say here is there's nothing normal about trying to make a change, right? And for me, it became sort of normal, but initially it doesn't seem normal, right? It seems like it's awkward, like you're not ordinary, like you're not like one of the guys. You have to just make a change and commit to yourself that you're gonna do whatever it takes to get to that point, right? Yeah. So it's mindset shift that you have to go through, and you have to really, really want it.
Yeah, and I think that's it right there. Is that it's like, and just to recap, it took changing some of the habits, stop with the TV, stop with the entertainment, stop hanging out with buddies, even your work buddies, and focus just on what the end goal is. Because if you think about it, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, do you really want to keep doing the same thing? And I have friends that I say the same thing. It's like, dude, in 15 years, you're going to be 65 years old. Do you really want to be doing this at 65 years old? Like complaining every time, hey, how you doing? Oh, my job sucks. My life sucks, yada, yada, yada. Do you really want to be doing that for the next 15 years? I mean, I know I don't.
Most of the people out there complain about their situation. Like if you think about it, and guys, if you're listening, picture yourself, like try to go back and think about that moment that you've said that to yourself, like, oh man, my life sucks, or I hate the situation, or why does it happen to me? I'm so unlucky, and if you're one of those guys, it's because you're not doing enough, and if you think that you're doing enough, then you're still not doing enough, right? Because there's always somebody else that's working harder than you, and it's always something else that you could be doing instead of you watching watching TV or hanging out with your friends or just burning time on social media. You can be doing something else to further yourself and further your self-development, your education. There's something that you can always be doing, and to further to advance yourself and put yourself in a better situation. Because if you don't start now, then you can say, yeah, I can save for later, but I mean, later, when is that? 5 years, 10 years from now? I mean, you could have been that much further ahead 5 or 10 years from now, Yeah. And so I think there's always something that you can do to improve. And even myself, yourself, I mean, we're not doing enough either. There's always more that you can do.
Absolutely. And the thing is, though, I think what it takes is breaking the cycle, breaking the habits, and putting yourself in a different environment is one great way to do it. Right. So if you're used to going to the kitchen table to do your work, pack up all your stuff, go to Starbucks and do it there instead. Change the environment a little bit, change up your daily habits to focus on what you want to work on. Right. For instance, I mean, that's one thing I did anyway. I used to, for whatever reason, I would go to Starbucks, and that is the place where I get all my business plans done. That was the place. Don't know why. Can't do it at home. I set me up at any Starbucks with my computer and I'd be happy and I can work there.
I think the psychological piece of that is that you see other guys that are being busy and it's just like, okay, like, oh, look at these guys, man, they're all being productive. And like, I need to be productive, right? It's just that shift, right? You're at home and it's like, it's so easy because you have a bed there and you have TV there and there's food, there's all kinds of different things. It's comfort, right? But again, we can get deeper into that, but like get out of your comfort zone is super important. That's one of the big changes that I did. Hanging out with the right people. So I cut these people off over here, but then I started opening my network to other people that are already in the business, that are doing things that are more successful. Those are all super, super important because you get to see it from other guys, and it's like these guys aren't complaining; these guys are just taking action. They're doing whatever it takes. And then if I look at my left hand, all these guys over here, all they ever do is complain. Right? They don't do anything. They complain every day, but don't make any changes. And on the right hand, I mean, these guys are just animals, man. They're just keep crushing it. So, your network, it makes a huge, gigantic influence on your success and how you are able to move forward and succeed in life, man.
Well, it's funny because when I was working in New York, I was working at a company in there a long time ago, and I would go to lunch with these guys, and all they would do is complain about the office, complain about their pay, complain about time off, complain. And I would get caught up with that. And that was my network, right? That was the exposure that I was receiving. And nowadays, I don't have any of those friends. I mean, not that they're bad people or anything else like that. And I still talk to them from time to time. They'll reach out, hey, how you doing? That kind of thing. And I'll communicate with them, and I don't hate them or anything else like that. But I think what you have to realize is that whenever you expose yourself to the negativity, it's not supporting your end goal, right? It's not supporting your personal cause, and anything that does not support your personal cause is going to hurt you. And your network is a huge, huge part of it. It's a huge part of it. So, but now, how'd you get into that network then? Like, how did you find those people then? Where'd you meet them?
Yeah, very good question. So, as you start focusing on something, it just, your mind works in crazy ways, right? And for example, like if you want to buy a house and you want to buy a house with a pool, then that's what you focus on. You focus on pools. You start seeing like on the internet, that's all you do, right? You're thinking about like, what's the best pools that you want to buy for your house, the type of furniture, landscaping, all those type of things. That's what your mind focuses on, right? If you want success, then you start focusing on success, and then the people kind of show up as well, right? So guys, what I'm trying to say is I focused on success, and part of what happened was I found myself going to different meetups, different networking events, online, chat rooms, forums, those type of things, right? And one thing led to another, and now I have a big network, but yeah, what you want to focus on, you have to make sure that you find people that are in the business, And then those people will introduce you to other people. It just naturally happens, right? So, it pretty much, going through networking events, going through meetups, conferences, those type of things is where you're going to meet a lot of the people that you want to be around, right? And so that's what I did pretty much.
Yeah, and well, I think one of the biggest pushback points I get from some people is, "Oh my God, that costs so much money. I can't spend the money." Which it sounds to me, and one thing I learned as well is those relationships, whatever you're spending for a ticket, $500 or whatever, to a quality event, a quality in-person event, you fly somewhere and you meet people. That to me is gold. I mean, I don't know if you did the same sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I do it all the time, right? Except, obviously, 2020 has been a strange year, but to this point, but, I go like all the time to like different events, different conferences. Those type of, events are my favorites. Like you said, yeah, you can spend, $500. I mean, I spend a couple of thousand, just to go to an event, and what it does is that it filters out a bunch of the people that you don't want to see, right? Yeah. They that really, can add value to yourself, but you also can't add value to them because they're not going to be open-minded either. Right. So, those type of events, they really are, they're worth themselves they're worth it so much. The other ones are coaching. If you go to any kind of coaching masterminds, those are really worth it as well. I'm a part of a program as well. And, I've met so many awesome people through that program. And, this was not $2,000. I mean, these are more in the, 20s and 30s, right? But I've met so many awesome people through that network. Because you think about it, I mean, these are all people that are also willing to pay that much, right? So they're also looking for guys like yourself, right? So you kind of join up there, right? But through those type of events, I've been able to do business with these guys. I've been able to, for example, right now, I'm literally like, this morning before we jumped on our call, I'm putting together a spreadsheet because, I'm thinking about possibly even starting a business with one of the guys, right? Mm-hmm. It's a business that's going to complement what I do now. But this is a guy that has 30 years in the business in a different market, right? And so we're talking about opening this business here in Texas. And so, that was all through an event, a networking event, right? So I think networking is so worth it. It's so worth it. So don't look at the cost, look at the value that you're going to get in return. Don't look at the $500 that you're going to spend. Look at the value you're going to get, so many more times back. It's so worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing though, too, the coaching, the masterminds, getting in front of people, networking with them. I mean, that part is huge in itself, but I think it's also what you're doing specifically is you're doing the follow-up, you're doing the work, you're putting yourself out there, you're communicating with these people. So it's more than just passively sending 20 grand and sitting by the sidelines. You're engaging the rest of the mastermind, and you're trying to do business with them, which is huge.
Yeah. It opens up doors. It opens up possibilities. Because if you think about it, I mean, would these guys want to do business with you if first of all, how would you find these guys, right? It's hard to find, a lot of successful people, out in the street. You're not going to find them at the mall, right? It's just not going to happen, right? So you have to go to these events. And then these are guys that are hungry as well, right? They're looking for new opportunities. They're looking for new business partnerships and ventures and all these type of things. So, I mean, that's how the party started, man.
Absolutely. And that part is huge, guys. I mean, listen, you have to get that mindset right. Of course, we talked about that. You have to get the network, that's a huge, huge part of it. And, but just as you said though, too, man, it's like the education is key. The last thing you want to do is show up to your network, sound like a newbie, sound like you don't know what you're saying, and getting trained up either on your own or with a mentor is critical, absolutely critical.
And yeah, and like we talked about just here earlier is getting out of your comfort zone, right? Because going to these type of events, if you're that guy that's more of an introvert, right? You call yourself an introvert, you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. And then the more you realize that, hey, you know what? I'm actually not really an introvert. it was more of my mindset and me thinking that I was an introvert. I'm actually a little bit of a mixture. I'm actually a hybrid or I'm actually an extrovert, but I didn't realize it, So be willing to get out of your comfort zone, because, man, success always lies on the other side of your comfort zone. So it's outside of your comfort zone, man. It really is. You stay in your bubble, then there's going to be very few opportunities.
Well, I think part of it is that our brains are listening to what we're saying. If you keep telling yourself that you're an introvert, guess what? You're an introvert. Yeah. You're an introvert because your brain says so, right? Yep. So part of it is really pushing yourself and forcing yourself outside of what you're telling yourself. That part is huge. Absolutely huge. That's
gold, 100%. Now you have to, again, it goes back to the mindset. It's so important. Once you have your mindset right, then, man, it opens up opportunities, and the sky's the limit.
Yeah. So now, what are you doing these days to improve your mindset? Are you doing any personal development stuff or anything else like that?
Not necessarily too much. I mean, I continue to read books. I mean, that's one of my favorite things, is continue to read books and keep it going, right? I try to read. I mean, I'm not that much of a big reader. I try to read a book, one or two a month. But even that is very difficult for me at the moment, because family and then business and those type of things. So I just try to, whenever I have some downtime, try to catch up on reading. But I think reading is one of the best things you can do besides networking, because these are guys, the guys that write the books. Also depends if it's a good book or not, right? Assuming it's a good book, but the guys that write the books, these are guys that are successful. These are guys that are telling you what they've done and how they did it in most cases, and the mistakes that they learned. So it's like having your own personal mentor in a book, and you can go back to it and try to see what he said, on chapter 1. Let me see if I can remember what he said. Rewind and go to chapter 1 again, right? So it's like each book is like his own mentor. And so, I don't, I think so many people undervalue the power of reading books, man. It's more than gold, in the books, man. So that's another thing, that people should do for sure.
Oh man. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm huge on books. I read a book a week, and imagine having a billionaire as your mentor writing a book for you. Right. And that's what Sam Walton did. Made in America. Read that book. Right. Great book. And it outlines his entire plan and how he's built the Walmart business. It's funny because Jeff Bezos has a copy of that book. He carries it around with him. It's all tattered up. It's all like he refers to it as like his guide to build Amazon. Right. It's crazy, but it's like, but you're absolutely right. These are the people that have already made it, and they basically leave instructions for everyone else. And it's an amazing way to really take advantage of that mentoring, right? So it's just amazing stuff. It really is. And getting to the habit of reading and filling your mind with good, positive information is a great way to do it. It's a great way.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So tell me about the next 5 years for your business. How do you see the next 5 years shaking out?
Yeah. So, we buy apartment communities, right? Value add, multifamily, here in Texas, primarily, also in Arizona. We've looked into the Atlanta, Georgia market and Florida markets. I think in the next 5 years, we're going to continue to do some value add, deals. But we're also going to be doing new ground up development. That's something that we actually want to do within the next, 18 to 24 months. So ground development, class B plus, value add deals, have a vertically integrated, company, with a construction company and a, management company in house as well.
Nice. Well, ground development's a whole different animal.
It's a whole different animal. And yeah, that's why I want to do it, because it's another challenge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're doing a couple right now, and yeah, they're very, very different, but yeah, the upside is totally worth it. It's totally worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's just, you got to be a little bit more patient. A lot more patient. There's a lot more risk that's involved. It's a longer process, but, it's, at the end, it's you're gonna see the fruits of your hard work for sure.
Okay, guys. Well, if you want to reach out to Juan, you can reach him through his website at thejuanvargas.com. I hope you got a lot of really good insight on some of the strategies you need to really create that generational wealth through real estate. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Take care.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast.